Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews, I want to discuss some exiles history. The exiles from the Babylonian Captivity. A lot of Hebrews just don't understand what transpired, during the Babylonian Wars and what we was up against, or what our enemy was doing, or who was even our enemies. Most Hebrews look at Israelite history in a simplified baby sense. You just all happy and green and stuff, and you just really don't know what's going on. I'm here to tell you that we've been up against something real serious. And the people who we abandon our heritage to, yes, we Israelites abandon our heritage to some Babylonian scribes. Well, the people that they kindred to, it's a big picture, man, dealing with this Tanakh history. And I'm here to tell you that it's not peaches and cream like you Hebrews try to portray Israelite history. Some of you Hebrews think that the exiles come back from Babylon and that they were so happy and everything was just peaches and ice cream and that they just had a good time and everything was just sweet, and bam, they just rolled over into the New Testament and up pops God's son, and how everything is sweet and you just waiting on him and just everything just sweet and gold. That's how some of you Hebrews think. But I'm here to tell you, man, that that's fallacy, that's false dreaming, and that's a delusion, and that I'm showing you and been showing in countless videos that the exiles from Babylon, from the Babylonian captivity, were destroyed. I'm talking about destroyed real fast. You Hebrews don't know who our enemies is or who we up against. Like I say, some of you Hebrews walk around in the dream world thinking that everything is sweet and rose, and how you done discovered your Hebrew heritage, and then how you just so happy and everything is just so sweet, and and that you point at the Caucasians, those the Edomites, that's Lucifer, and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on, and that you almost still in the same state of mind that our ancestors were in when they broke the covenant. They didn't know what was going on. All kind of tricks was being played on them. Our enemies, our friends became our worst enemies. The Egyptians and the Assyrians. That's why our troubles really start at. But then our troubles can be, traced directly to one individual, even though, we were slipping and sliding from the time that we exodus Egypt, and how we slipped and slid and partied all the way into the promised land, and how we didn't get rid of the enemies, who is the root of all our problems today, and how when we came into the promised land, how we let our enemies survive, and our enemies got our heritage. I'm here to tell you, and I'm gonna show this. That's why I say most Hebrews is in a delusion, because they don't know that the enemies that we didn't destroy are the people that's claiming the Israelite heritage today, and are basically the people that's responsible for all our problems that we've been going through, because they've been trying to, keep our heritage. All right, Hebrews, when we exodus Egypt and came into the promised land and didn't destroy our enemies and didn't follow the orders of the Creator, that's the worst thing we could have ever did. That destroyed us. And then how that after exiting Egypt and going into the promised land, and then how the heritage would eventually follow into King Solomon's hand, and from Joshua to Prophet Samuel. We had a few judges, Prophet Samuel, then King Saul, then King David, and then Solomon. All right, our problems today, right now, today, can be traced back to Solomon and him cohabitating with our enemies and how they produce a mix like Solomon mixing with our enemies and being cool with them produce a mixed group of peoples that would eventually take our heritage, and it was the enemies. Solomon mixed with our enemies, and then that mixture with our enemies would lead to our enemies taking our heritage and having it today. And then I can show that the history that the average Hebrew view about the exile history is incorrect and false, and how that these Hebrews is living in a delusion, and then how that the exiles were destroyed, and then how that they couldn't have ever made it over to New Testament time. And then, I know it's books outside the Tanakh that they would want you to think explain the continuation of the Israelite heritage coming from the book of Malachi and going, from there on down to present day history. I'm telling you that that's false, and that the book of Malachi was the last book, and that 98 years after that the Greeks show up, and then that's the complete end of exile history, and how it was prophesied that the exiles would be destroyed and that they had broken covenant, and like I say, it couldn't be two covenants, and then this is how the Hebrews is living in a delusion too, because they think that it was two covenants. Most Hebrews don't even know that we ran into Africa by way of Egypt during the Babylonian Wars, and how we abandoned the covenant, like I said, and ran into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. You know what I'm saying? They tricked us out the covenant. And then how that the exiles come back from Babylon were given a chance, and how that if they would have followed the covenant and kept the law, then the sacrifices and everything would still be there unhindered. You know what I'm saying? And then how we that ran into Africa in the book of Jeremiah would have vanished and been destroyed, and how that the exiles would have been the priestly nation to the Creator right now in the day, and they would have been there, and the Greeks or none of the enemies couldn't have never come into the promised land. The Romans or none of them couldn't have never came into the promised land. But that something happened to the exiles, and I want to show this. This is going to be the exiles history, and it don't go in this order. Well, it go in this order the way that I got it. Saying the Israelite Brotherhood got the history showing you the exiles prophets, and then how our enemies, when they translated the Tanakh history, how they put prophet Ezra, and prophet Nehemiah way in the front of the Tanakh history, so that by the time you finish reading Ezra and Nehemiah, and then you get to the rest of the history about the destruction of our empire, and us being chased off the land, and then the exiles coming back, that you will not connect Ezra and Nehemiah to the rest of the prophets. They slick and how they chronicleize the Tanakh history, and then how that only the Jewish rabbis would know the order that they go in. Those are the people that we abandon our heritage to, and I'm explain that. Like I say, a lot of Hebrews don't even know and can't even conceive, especially those camps. If you Hebrews following them camps, you will never be told that we Hebrews abandon our heritage to the Jews, and then your leader explain what happened. You're not going to get that in these organizations, because them organizations ain't been taught by the Israelite Brotherhood. They don't know what's going on. The Israelite Brotherhood is an organization that got thousands of hours, 90,000 hours of continuous research up on top of 20 years of understanding, 20, 30 years of understanding who we are, and how that the Israelite Brotherhood separated the Jewish myths from real Israelite history. See, the people that we abandon our heritage to, the Jews, the Sephardi's and the Ashkenazis, are Babylonian scribes, and they are responsible for a history, and they have a history, and they've been presenting that history off as Israelite history, because we Hebrews abandon our heritage to them, and I'm gonna show you that it's even more serious than that, and showing, I'm gonna show how that they basically took over the exiles heritage, and how the exiles were mixing and playing around with them folks. And also I want to note this, that Solomon was so messed up that Solomon mixing Solomon's servants, who his children would mix in with his servants, and then how that they will produce a whole different group unto themselves when they come back from the Babylonian captivity, and how they just stayed in a certain area, the mixed people, and how that they didn't live with the rest of the Hebrews, that lived in Jerusalem and so forth, even though that they lived close, and how that they was trying to, the other enemies was trying to get into our genealogy through them, and then eventually did. And then I can show that the Creator prophesies through the prophet Ezekiel, this is in 573 BC, how that the enemies would be in the sanctuary and in the temple that the angel was measuring off in prophet Ezekiel time. This is before the exiles even come back from Babylon and start repairing the temple. And then, like I say, that they got the books wrong. They got Ezra and Nehemiah in the front. So by the time you read them, you don't understand what's went on. And then they got Haggai and Zechariah and Malachi in the back. And then by the time you be read Ezra and Nehemiah, you don't know what go on. And then the book of Nehemiah don't even go with the book of Ezra, and how that the book of Nehemiah is towards the end of the exiles' existence, and how the prophet Malachi, a couple of years after that, prophesied that it was over because they was mixing, and then how the enemies had got into the temple, just like the Creator had told prophet Ezekiel when he was in Babylon, and then the Creator took him to Jerusalem when they was measuring off the temple. That would eventually be the history in the book of Zechariah, which though when you read the book of Ezra, what's happening is in the book of Zechariah, prophet Zechariah history is what's happening in Ezra, but it's more in detail in the book of Zechariah and Haggai. He'll tell you how the angel, came and measured off the temple and made the Joshua, the high priest, and so forth, with the leader Zerubbabel from the lineage of King David. And then how that they would be the leaders, and how that they was, and what they was up against. And it was awful, and it wasn't sweet. And then in the book of Nehemiah, you see, Esther gonna be kind of like, when they was in Susa and we was coming home, you know what I'm saying? And then the little move that they tried to pull on us. I got a video, just dealing with that history by itself. Okay, how the prophet Nehemiah is towards the end. Its history is towards the end, and when you read it, you'll see how the enemies had got up in the temple, just like the Creator had told prophet Ezekiel that it would happen. And I'm gonna read that, and then I'm gonna eventually get to the people in the temple, the Tobias. Those gonna be the people that come back from Babylon. They was Ammonites, Ammonites, and then how that they had come from Babylon, and then try to be counted in our genealogy as the children of Israel, and how we put the brakes on it, and then wouldn't let it happen, and then how throughout the whole time that the exiles come back from the Babylonian captivity tried to rebuild the temple and the troubles that they had and so forth, and then, man, we was sinning so bad that, it had to be cut off, our heritage. And I'm going to show that it was prophesied that it would be cut off. It was prophesied by the prophet Isaiah, like 200 years before it even happened, that the people from Babylon, the 10th that was taken away, would come back and be eaten alive. And then that's what happened to them, because like I said, it couldn't be no two covenants. It couldn't be two covenants. It couldn't be no two covenants. One broken and one not broken. It was all or nothing with us. And then that's why come our bones had to be kicked out the promised land. Like I say, it was all or nothing. Either we was gonna stay there in that land that the Creator gave us, or we was gonna be driven out, and that's everything about us kicked out. As I showed in the other videos, how the bones was even prophesied to be taken away in that DNA video, showing that how that they using DNA as a hoax because they don't have prophet Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob's DNA. Okay, I want to show that that temple that they measured off, and then how the Creator said that the enemies would be up in it, and then how it come to pass, and then how all this would lead to our destruction, and then how Solomon's servants, the people we didn't destroy, who he made servants out of, kind of laid in the cut. And then when them Greeks and them folks come in and then got rid of the exiles, and also the people that destroyed the Assyrian Empire, completely extinct them, Ashkenazi was in the land. So the exiles was on borrowed time. If they had started sinning and mixing, that they was on borrowed time, because they had enemies that extinct whole populations that settled in the promised land. That's how serious the Creator was, that he put some people in the land that would extinct your whole population, knock everybody off, kill everything, everybody. Now these people would do like the Creator say. If you say get rid of all them, Ashkenazi gonna get rid of all of you. You know what I'm saying? And then that's what happened to the exiles. But like I say, I want to read where the Creator said that them people would be up in the temple, and then how it came to pass during the about 50 years later, and this is prophet Ezekiel. This is in 573 BC. And he was in Babylon, but the Creator took him up in the vision and brought him back to the promised land. And then that angel measured off the temple, and then as I explained in other videos, how our enemies through myths got you thinking that an angel got some wings flying around, and stuff, and flying around like that, when the Tanakh say that they had feet, hands, and walked around just like we did. It's a description of a craft that the Creator was in the book of Ezekiel, that they know that that the heavenly host came to earth and built it, and that the Creator is the founder of the earth and created everything in it, and they know this. You know what I'm saying? They know this to be true, but how they try to keep you in disbelief, because how the angelic beings mixed up with them Canaanite tribes, and then they start worshiping them, and then that caused the disbelief. That's gonna be them gods in Egypt, and then them gods in Babylon. All right. In the 5th and 20th year of our captivity, in the beginning of the year, in the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after that, the city was smitten. And the self same day, the hand of the Elohim was upon me, and brought me thither. In the vision of Yah brought he me into the land of Israel, and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was as the frame of a city on the south. And he brought me hither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a land of flex in his hands. So man, he had a hand and he was brown skinned. Let's see what some brass look like. What I'm saying, let's see what some brass look like. So he was brown skinned, just like we use today. That's what brass look like. You know what I'm saying? That was copper, but this is brass. Alright, them brass bullet casings and stuff. You know that they brown if you ever had some old 22 casings and stuff like that. That, you know, that's brass right there. Look at that. That's brass. That's brown. That's a deep brown right there. So that's what, you know, this angelic being had the appearance of brass with the land of flex in his hand and a measuring reed, and he stood at the gate. So, you know, he would measure off the temples and this everything. You know, this is after the temple was destroyed by the Chaldeans. Ashkenazi burnt the temple up when we ran into Africa in the book of Jeremiah and so forth, you know. And then this angel, you know, was telling, you know, prophet Ezekiel, showing him how that it would be rebuilt, and the creator told him that it would be rebuilt. This is the second temple. This is the second temple, and then this will be the temple that was destroyed plenty times during the Greek and Roman times, and how that herd took it all the way down to the ground and left no parts of it, and then built him a brand new one. And that'll be the one that Jesus prayed in. You know, he won't be there prayed in this one right here, the original temple that the exiles build, because there's no mention of a God's son coming to the temple to do none of that stuff. That would have been mentioned by the prophets, that how a God's son would have been coming back to the temple to do stuff. And, you know, and then I show how Jesus only was in synagogues. You know, Ashkenazis created all the synagogues, and they had a whole bunch of synagogues in the promised land after they settled there, in competition with the Edomite, the Amorite, Edomite, Moabite temple that herd had built and so forth. All right. But you see, as you read Ezekiel 40, you know, the angel is measuring off the temple and different parts of it, the length and so forth. And then, you know, he measuring, you know what I'm saying, the temple. And then, you know, he, you know, doing a whole lot of measuring the steps. He measuring every part of the temple, everything that was originally built during Solomon's time. This angel was measuring it, and he was showing him in the vision how it was going to be done and stuff, and what was going to be done. And then I can show you how the angel, how this prophecy was fulfilled during Zechariah times. You know, and Zechariah is going to be the history that is in Ezra and so forth. Zechariah and Haggai is the history that Ezra is talking about. That history, it go with the history of the book of Ezra. All right, so then as you get over to Ezekiel 41, you know, he measuring everything off. You know, they measuring windows and walls and steps and separate rooms, and every aspect of the temple is being measured. And then Ezekiel being showed this, you know, and then he brought him to the south, to the north, to the east side of the temple, and the chambers, the priest chambers, and then, you know, he measured men against all that. So this angel putting in some work, man. He doing a lot of work. He doing a lot of measuring. And, you know, he measured every aspect of the temple. You know, every aspect. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel, was, like I said, was in the by the river Chabar, and the angel that the creator them took him up in the vision and took him to the promised land. And then he get to see the temple and everything measured off, reconstruction and redid by the angels. You know what I'm saying? And afterward he brought me to the gate, even to the gate that looketh
towards the east, and behold, the glory of the Elohim of Israel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like the noise of many waters, and the earth shined with his glory, and it was according to the appearance of the vision which I saw, even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. And the vision were like the vision that I saw by the river Chabar, and I fell upon my face. This is gonna be the creator with some pigmentation. This another reason why our enemies gonna hate us, because every description of the creator is gonna be in blackness, pigmentation, or a description of a person with pigmentation, and then that's gonna make our enemies hate us, sure enough, if they ain't got no pigmentation. All right, look. And the glory of the Elohim came into the house by the way of the gate, whose prospect is toward the east. This is Ezekiel 43, verse 5. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, and behold, the glory of the Elohim filled the house. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house, and the man stood by me. And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the sole of my feet, where I dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by their carcass of their things. He was showing them what's going to become, in the last days after we done did everything. But look, as you get over here to 44, now, like I say, the angel measured off the temple, and then the creator was telling him that the temple would be rebuilt. You know what I'm saying? And then it goes on to say this: then he brought me back to the way of the gate of the out sanctuaries, which looked toward the east, and it was shut. Then said the Elohim unto me, this gate shall be shut, it shall not be open, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Elohim, the Yah of Israel, had entered in by it. Therefore it shall be shut. Man, you couldn't even go in the gate. A door after the Creator, Almighty Yah, go in it. You can't even go in it or open it up no more. That door can't even be opened up no more. Never. And that's something real serious. Look, it is for the prince. The princes shall sit in it to eat bread before the Elohim. He shall enter by the way of the porch of the gate, and shall go out by the way of the same. Then brought he me the way of the north gate before the house, and I looked, and behold, the glory of the Elohim filled the house of the Elohim, and I fell upon my face. And the Elohim said unto me, Son of man, mark well, and behold within eyes, and hear within ears, all that I say unto thee concerning the ordinance of the house of Israel, and all the laws thereof, and mark well the entering in of the house, with every going forth of the sanctuary. Now, this sanctuary and them rebuilding the temple after it was destroyed was really giving the exiles a chance, another chance. The Creator kept giving us chances. He kept giving us chances. He gave us a chance with King Josiah, during the prophet Jeremiah times also. And man, we was given chances left and right. And the exiles was given the chances. Like I say, us, the 99%, had ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. And I'm also show that it was all the tribes still at home, and then that we all went into Africa, and that Israel was among the people that ran into Africa, as well as the people captured and took into Babylon, and that made it back home. All right. Then brought he me into the way the north gate before. I'm sorry. Then said the Elohim unto me, Son of man, mark well, and behold within eyes, and hear within ears, all that I say unto thee concerning the ordinance of the house of the Elohim, and all the laws thereof. Mark well the entering in of the house, with every going forth of the sanctuary. And thou shalt say to the rebellious, even to the house of Israel, this said the Elohim Yah, O ye house of Israel, let it surface you of all your abominations, in that ye have brought into my sanctuary strangers, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary, to pollute it, even my house, when ye offer my bread, the fat of the blood, and they have broken my covenant because of all your abominations. And ye have not kept the charge of my holy things, but ye have set keepers of my charge in my sanctuaries for yourselves. You know what I'm saying? This saith Elohim, no stranger uncircumcised in heart, no uncircumcised in flesh shall enter into my sanctuary of any stranger that is among the children of Israel. You know what I'm saying? So how about we broke that and didn't follow that, and then how the strangers got into the promised land. How the strangers got into the promised land and then took over the temple. And then how that what prophet Ezekiel said and the creator said shouldn't have happened eventually come to pass in the book of Nehemiah, how the whole temple was turned over to the Ammonite Tobiah, the Moabite Amorite Tobiah had the temple and was in the temple, and the creator said that it shouldn't have happened. And then I'm gonna show that the covenant was broken for the exiles. Like I say, the book of Ezra is the history of Zechariah and Haggai, and how I'm finna go into them books, and then I'm gonna show you how it led to our destruction, the things that they was doing. The book of the book of Ezra. Man, they was sinning so bad. Man, it was basically over with. In the book of Ezra. And then if you know what I'm saying, if we go to Ezra gonna be the first history. Ezra gonna be 537 BC to 456 BC. His last 456 BC gonna be like 128 years before the Greeks get in. And then how that, in the book of Zechariah, it was over from the things that, we was doing in the book of Ezra and Haggai. And it was over. Let me show you this. Alright, so we know, in the book of Ezra, how everybody come home and how Zerubbabel was still the leader. And then, this show you that Israel mentioned throughout the exiles history. They come from the Babylonian captivity, and everybody didn't come from Babylon, and how some of us came from Susa. That's like Nehemiah gonna come from Susa. Nehemiah and Esther and them was in Susa, whereas the Ezra and the other prophets, Haggai and Zechariah and them came from Babylon to the promised land. So we would come from two different places, or from the Mesopotamian area during the end of the Babylonian captivity. How Cyrus was prophesied by prophet Isaiah like 150 some years before he was born, how he would come and be a liberator to the captives that was taken, during the Babylonian Wars, and how did the prophecy come to pass about Cyrus, freeing the people. And then I got, a video going into that history too, Alright, so then look, let me show how, we messed up so bad. And then if you read, the genealogy and the people that returned from the Babylonian captivity, you'll see that, Bethel was part of the northern kingdom, and that's how, where Jeroboam did, his worship at, and how that they was there, and how did we was from all different parts. And then also how when they come back from the Babylonian captivity, how they wasn't talking about really no tribes no more, and it was more or less, about who their forefathers was, and the province that they lived in, and so forth, and how that they wasn't talking about, tribes and so forth. And you can understand this in the book of Ezra. But as you read, man, you're going to get over to Solomon. Now, this is a whole different history. Now, I explained in one of the videos how the Nethinims are the people that we didn't destroy, the Gibeonites, who would be the Amorites, the Havites, and all our enemies combined would become the Nethinims, and how we made them servants of the temple, and how that the people in the temple would go into them, and then they would produce a whole separate lot. They would be the mixed peoples. They would be the mixed peoples, and then the mixed peoples kind of hand our heritage over to our enemies completely. And then that's like today, it's the people that's mixed with us that's allowing the other people to come in and take over our culture and somewhat direct it in the way that they wanted to, because the mixed people done took our heritage over to our captors and so forth. And that's been going like that throughout our whole existence. Is how when we mix with other ethnic groups, that how the offsprings would take our heritage to our enemies, the people that really don't care about us as a whole and so forth, that's trying to get our heritage. And then Solomon, opened the door for that, when he, made, all them folks his servants. And then, they would be around when the exiles come back from Babylon, and then how that they would work in collaborations with the people that they was half kindred to, our enemies, and how that they would all eventually take the heritage. And then that's what you have today. Besides Ashkenazi, coming in, as a conqueror. All right, look, these are the fakes that go all the way down from Ezra. Look, you see Nethinims, those where the fake Jews and all them folks come from. All right, the Nethinims, the children of Zor, you see they got their own everything, and they own the towns where they stayed at, and those are the forefathers, men of their house, and how it was a bunch of them. I'm talking about it was a bunch of them. Man, it was a bunch of them. And then as you get down, you're going to see that Solomon's name is associated with the mixed peoples, the peoples that wasn't Israelites, and how his children would be mixed up with them. Look, and then as you get down to 56 and then you get down to 58, all the Nethinims and the children of Solomon's servants were 392. Those gonna be Solomon's uh kids, servants who they mixed in the mixed lot. And I'm gonna show you how that come about too. If we go to First Kings chapter 11. First Kings chapter 11. First Kings chapter 11, gonna tell you about our boy Solomon and how he mixed up real bad with the enemies. Alright. But King Solomon loved many strange women together with the daughter of Pharaoh. And look, Pharaoh, him hooking up with them Egyptians, caused the Egyptians to do trade with the Hittites and the folks in Syria and the people in the Mesopotamian area, whereas we had them bottled up with the covenant, and we was going to destroy Egypt because they couldn't come across the promised land to do trade with the other people on the other side of us, and how the covenant was killing them, and how that they tricked us through Jeroboam. This is during Solomon time. He opened the door and started fooling with them folks, and how he would chase Jeroboam from the tribe of Ephraim, who was mixed with the Egyptians, and how he would come out of Egypt with the Egyptian religion, the golden calf that Amun-Ra Ptah mess and put that stuff on us, and how that would keep us sin all the way to King Josiah come about, who only cleaned it up for 30 years, and then how the Egyptians killed him and then put us back on the Egyptian religion, and how we will be chased into Africa, all the tribes, the 99%, and how only that 1% was captured and took into Babylon. And then when they come back, man, the Solomon's folks who he let in the door, these people right here was around, and they would eventually get our heritage, and they would kill the exiles off so fast and merge and blend in to the history. Let me see. But the king Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Zidonians, and the Hittites, all the nations concerning which the Elohim said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come into you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. And Solomon clave unto them in love. You see what I'm saying? And for it comes to pass when Solomon was old that these wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Elohim, his Yah, and as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Malcolm, the abomination of the Ammonites. So that would be these people right here. And Solomon made them folk servants. Look, Solomon made them folks servants too, and would let them folks get into the temple. Solomon would let them folks get into the temple because they were servants at the temple. And then if you go to 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 20. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 20. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 20. You're going to see, and all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly to destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bondsmen and unto service. You know what I'm saying? And them gonna be the people that's gonna be in the temple. Them gonna be the people that was in the temple. But the children of Israel, Solomon did not make bondsmen, but they were men of war and of servants, and his princes and his chariots. See, but them other folks, Solomon gonna make servants, and then they gonna be servants in the temple, and then that's gonna be these folks right here. All the Nethinims and the children of Solomon's servants were 390 and 92, and then some more people came back from Babylon that after they got there, and then I guess them other folks told them that how we done ran off, that some more Babylonians pulled up. Look, and these were they which went up from Tamarlah, Talaharsa, Cherd, and Adin, and Immer, but they could not show their father's house and their seed whether they were of Israel. The children of Deliah, the children of Tobiah. Look, you see that Tobiah? Tobiah gonna be in the temple. That's an Ammonite, Ammonite. The children of Nekodia, 652. Man, that's a lot of people trying to get into the Israelite heritage. All them would cause us to lose our heritage and get the exiles cut off. The exiles had to be cut off because they started mixing. You have to read the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi to understand that the exiles were not in good standing, because if they were, then it wouldn't have been no transatlantic slave trade. And their descendants, us, would have still been in the promised land right now today, uninterrupted, because those people was doing the sacrifices and everything. And like I say, the angel had even came and measured the temple doing doing prophet Ezekiel time, and how it would be manifest during prophet Zechariah times. But you see how them people come from Babylon, tried to get in our heritage. A whole bunch of them, 650 of them. They told everybody that they can come claim an Israelite heritage. Our enemies did. The servants that Solomon made servants, when they left Babylon, they brought a whole bunch of their kindreds and peoples that they was distant relatives with, like them Sepharvims. They went to Cypher during the Babylonian captivity, and how they brought a whole bunch of people, and that's basically where these people gonna come from, where those Sepharvims were at that Ezra 2:59. All right, so we see, the book of Ezra, man, it ain't, man, it's awful. All right, and then, they even tried to get into the heritage as you read the book of Ezra. This is Ezra 4. Now, when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin, see, that's like a lot of Hebrews think that it was only Benjamin and Judah took in doing the Babylonian captivity and how that's false, because I showed that it wasn't never any 10 lost tribes, and then I show in plenty of videos how the tribes was there and how we was all driven into Judah and how we would eventually be driven into Africa. Now, when the adversary of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity built the temple unto the Elohim of Yah of Israel, then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, let us build with you, for we seek your Yah as ye do, and we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Edom, king of Assyria, which brought us up hither. Man, it was so many people that moved into the promised land, and while we was gone, the land was empty for 50 years. You know, it wasn't no Hebrews in the land. Wasn't no Hebrews in the promised land for 50 years during the Babylonian Wars. The 99% ran into Africa, and that 1% was taken to Jerusalem. And then that's what this says right here in the book of Jeremiah. He gonna let you know that that's what happened when you get to Jeremiah 44, verse 2. And you see it says, Thus said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel, ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah, and behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. Everybody was gone. You was either in Africa, or you was that little 1% that was captured and took into Babylon, who would eventually make it back and then be destroyed. And then, like I say, while we was gone, it was a bunch of nations in the promised land, and this who the mixed people from Solomon's seed and servants would mix up with these people, and they would claim Israelite heritage also. Let me see. Then wrote Rumi and Counselor Deshimi described these are the people that tried to hinder the building of the temple. Like I say, the temple was measured off in Ezekiel time, and when they come back from Babylon, it was starting to be fulfilled. I'm gonna go show that in the book of Zechariah next. I then wrote Shimi the council, so they was trying to stop them from building the wall, and then the enemies would write letters because they was the governors of the land. They would write letters to the kings in Persia, try to tell them to stop us from building the wall, saying that if we build a wall, that we ain't gonna cooperate with them no more, and that they can hang it up on collecting any type of money from us, or us doing anything that they say. And then how that they was trying to get them to stop us from building, our enemies was. All right. Which they did for a while, and then the prophet Haggai and Zechariah gonna get in and then get the building started back again. And then those are the books that I'm gonna go into showing you that it was over. But they was up under, the exiles was up under the covenant that we received from Egypt. That's why they had the sacrifices and all that stuff. So they was given a chance. But then how the creator said that it was over with, because they started mixing, passing the heritage over to the enemies who he said we shouldn't mix up with. The same as what Solomon did. That's why they try to get us to mix today. Let me see. Then wrote Rum, the counselor, and Shimi, the scribe, and the rest of their companions, the Danites, the Arshaphites, the Tarpelites, the Arshphishaphites, the Archivites, the Babylonians, and the Shushanites, and the Devites, and the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great Asaph brought over and set in the cities of Samaria, and the rest that were on the other side of the river, as at such and such a time. This is the copy of the letter that they sent unto him, even unto Exodus. That's gonna be one of them kings that's not Doris and so forth. That's gonna be after Doris. That's gonna be his son and so forth. And how Doris was the son-in-law to King Cyrus, and how that we had to tell them to go look in the archives that King Cyrus had wrote in Doris, you know, and how that it was a proclamation for us to keep building the temple that our enemies was trying to get us to stop. Let me see. If you get over to Ezra 5, you'll see these. Then the prophet Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah, the son of Idud, prophesied unto the Judites that were in Judah and in Jerusalem, the name of the Elohim of Yah, even unto them. Then rose up Zerubbabel the son of Shealtiel, Joshua the son of Josedek, and began to build the house of Yah, which is at Jerusalem. All right, now look, let's show that them individuals was around doing that the book of Haggai and Zechariah go with the book of Malachi. See, they can distort what happened to the exiles if they don't got the books in this right order, and history in this right order. That when you read them books, you're gonna be confused about the history, because you can't put this history back with that history when it go with the history, you know what I'm saying, right here. And they got it all switched up. All right. If we go to the book of Zechariah 11, I can show that the covenant was over with. All right, Zechariah 11, and I also can show that the temple was measured off. Let me show that the temple was measured off. They had come back from the Babylonian captivity, and we know that the book of Zechariah is in 520 BC, that they was back from the Babylonian captivity. Look, and this is Zechariah 2. I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. That's going to be that same angelic being. You know, I told you that they got, they look just like us. And you probably couldn't tell them apart from us. It's just that they come from the heavens. I lifted up my eyes again and looked, and behold, a man with a measuring line in his hand. Then said I, whither goest thou? And he said unto me, to measure Jerusalem, to see what is the breadth thereof, and what is the length thereof. And behold, the angel that talked with me went forth, and another angel went out to meet him, and said unto him, run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle thereon. For lo, the Elohim will be unto her a wall. You know, so they that temple, got measured off again, and that's what he did, and they fulfilled, what was said in the book of Ezra. All right, now let me show you how it was over with in the book of in the book of Zechariah. We was messing up real bad. The people start mixing and so forth. They wouldn't separate themselves from the enemies when they come back, and the enemies had a party for them. They always got a party for us. If they want to get us off the covenant and don't want to do right, all they got to do is throw a party, and we forget about everything. All right. So let me see. This is Zechariah 11. Open the doors of Lebanon, that the fire may devour my cedars. Howl, O fir tree, the cedars is felling, because the mighty one spoileth. Howl, O ye oaks of Bashan, for the forest of the vintage is come down. There is voice of howling, the shepherds, for the glory is spoiled. A voice of the roaring of the young lions, for the pride of Jordan is spoiled. Thus said the Elohim, my Yah, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. That's what our enemies do. They kill us and shoot us. The police get the peoples and murder them, and then say that they ain't guilty. And that's just what's going on now. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, blessed be the Elohim, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. For I will no more pity the inhabitants of the land, said the Elohim. But lo, I will deliver the men, every one into his neighbor's hand, and into the hand of his king, and they shall smite the land, and out of their hand I will not deliver them. And I will feed the flock of slaughter, even you, O poor of the flock, and I will take unto me two shafts. The one I call beauty, and the other I call bands, and I will feed the flock. 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month. That's gonna be them ones them 3 that he gave the crowns to. He gave 3 crowns to the brothers. That's gonna be in Genesis. In Zechariah 6:16. Look, take of them of the captivity, even of Huldah, Tobijah, and of Jodiah, which are come from Babylon, and come thou to me, and come thou the same day, and go into the house of Joshua the son of, and take the silver and the gold, and make crowns, and set them upon the heads of Joshua. So, he probably cut them off. All right. 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month, and my soul loathed them, and their soul also abhorred me. Then said I will not feed you that dieth, let it die, and that is to be cut off, let it be cut off, and let the rest eat every one the flesh of another. And I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it asunder, that I might break my covenant which I have made with all the people. See, the covenant was broken. The covenant was broken. The covenant was broken, and it was in no way to fix the exiles' covenant that was broken. And then that's why the Greeks come in and got them real fast. Real fast. I showed the Lycimus and the Ptolemies and the Alexander's generals taking over the promised land and helping our enemies, collaborating with our enemies and so forth, the people that we abandon our heritage to, like Sanballat, the Ammonite, Edomite, Amorite, and how that, the Greeks would let them build temples and everything, which showed that the exiles were destroyed real fast. Man, they had to be cut off. And it was broken in that day. So the poor of the flock that waited upon me knew that it was the word of the Elohim. Man, it was over with. It was over with for the exiles. And then if you read Zechariah's history in prophet Ezra and Nehemiah, you'll see that it was over with. And then that's like the Haggai, the prophet Haggai history is right with prophet Ezra, and how when you read Ezra, you got to jump into Haggai and Zechariah, that you can't read the book of Malachi, Nehemiah and Malachi right then, because those are 2 different histories and stuff, even though it's all the same, but that Nehemiah and Malachi came later. See, Haggai speaking Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, the governor of Judah, as did Zechariah speak the same thing about Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel and so forth. So you see that Zerubbabel and Joshua and so forth, all them the same individuals that's spoken of in the in Haggai, that's spoken of in the book of Ezra. But this one got Zerubbabel in it. See, Zerubbabel right there. So Zechariah, Haggai, it is the history of Ezra. They go together, and once you read them histories together, and then get down to the book of Nehemiah, showing that it was towards the end. See, as you read Haggai, you gonna see, man, that he had to tell them to come on, y'all, and let's do right. Let's build a temple, and then that's the temple that the angel prayed off, that was eventually built, and during Zerubbabel time in the book of Zechariah and so forth. And then how we would start seeing it, and how the enemies got in the temple, just like the Creator told prophet Ezekiel what happened in the book of Nehemiah. This towards the end. This is like 100 years before the Greeks roll up. And then how in the book of Malachi, he tell you that it was over. Look. Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, said the Elohim, and be strong, O Joshua, son of Josedek, the high priest, and be strong, all ye people of the land, said the Elohim. Work, for I am with you, said the Elohim of hosts, according to the word that I covenanted with you when you come out of Egypt. So my spirit remain among you. Fear ye not. See, so that's why they was doing the sacrifices. They was still up under the covenant, so they couldn't mix. The covenant that we got from Moses say we couldn't mix with the enemies, that we wasn't supposed to mix with them. But as you see in the book of Nehemiah, that this is going to be next. Now, we done did Ezra, Haggai, and Zechariah. Now, when we get to the book of Nehemiah, you know, Zechariah is 188 years before the Greeks get in. And the book of Haggai is 188 years before the Greeks get in. You know, in the book of Nehemiah, it's 445 BC to 432 BC. You know, that's when we start to fall off, and how enemies start to corrupt the exiles, and then how it was over. So then we go to the book of Nehemiah. Now, remember how the Creator said that the enemy would be in the temples, and the enemy was in the temple where the tithes and the donations come through, and how that they was over that, and that was expressed in the book of Ezra also, how the enemies told the king that, man, you ain't finna be able to collect, we not finna be able to collect no money for you if these people build this wall in this city. And you know, look through the records and see that these folks are rebellious. You know, that's our enemies trying to keep us broke and keep us disorganized. But they would eventually get into the temple, and this is about 100 years after Ezra and Haggai and them, you know, gone and stuff. And this is, you know, the people started to fall off, and the enemies would eventually get into the temple. And then that's why come it's 500 years of blank history from the Tanakh to the New Testament, because the exiles was cut off, and then our enemies got their story together and presented false worship. All right, this is Nehemiah 13. On that day, they read in the book of Moses, in the audience of the people, therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Yah forever. Now, I just showed you that in the book of Ezekiel, how he said that that could never happen, and how that wasn't going to happen. So you know that the covenant had to be over with for the exiles, which would allow us in Africa that ran during Jeremiah times to survive, and that would eventually be, you know, the Israelites in the end and so forth. All right, on that day, they read in the book of Moses in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Yah forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our Yah turned the curses into a blessing. Now it come to pass, when they had read the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. That's meant, man, that probably spooked them right there. Man, they started to separate. And before this, you know what I'm saying, before they had separated, the mixed folks was ruling. That's gonna be the mixed people that Solomon's servants and all them people that we didn't destroy, that was really the enemies we was to destroy, and how we gave them a pass to work in the temple, and how they would eventually get the whole temple from us. Look, now it come to pass, when they heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude. Before this, Elisha the priest, having the oversight of the chamber of the house of Yah, was allied unto Tobiah. Now this is an Uncle Tom Hebrew that was friends with our enemies. Tobiah, that was an Ammonite. You remember the Tobiah folks come back from Babylon, and they couldn't say who heritage or where they come from. You know, they wasn't even among the, you know what I'm saying, they couldn't even be slick and get in among the Nethinims, you know, and how did they just come back from somewhere and just pull up and just say, hey, we children Israel too. And then how we rejected them, but how that they would eventually get in the temple from them old greedy Israelites. Let me see. And he prepared for him a great chamber, where aforetime they laid the meat offerings and the frankincense and the vessels and the tits of the corn, the new wine, and the oil, which was commanded to be given to the Levites and the singers and the porters and the offerings of the priests. But in all this time was I not at Jerusalem. For in the 32nd year of Adversaries, king of Babylon, came out to, you see, man, the enemies was in the temple, man. He chased him up out of there, but it wouldn't do no good, because this was towards the end. You know, this was towards the end right here. And then how it was the end. And then how I'm going to show you how the children of Israel look. This was gonna be the name of the ones that he sealed. You know, the ones that he sealed that didn't mess off, and then they got a list of the ones that did mess off. Got all their names of the ones that mixed it over with the enemies, and then how our heritage would be gone. All right, children of Paul. All right, now let's see. So we know Ezra is the beginning, then Haggai, then Zechariah, then Nehemiah, and then when you get to the book of Malachi, you see how Ezra and Nehemiah is in the front, and then how you got to turn the whole Tanakh to get to the end of the story. You know, our enemies did that to keep, you Hebrews from knowing the truth and what happened to the exiles. That's all they did. All right, the book of Malachi gonna tell you that it was over with. If you read the book of Malachi, man, it was over with, and we couldn't stop seeing it. And then how that, the Creator said that it was over with. They was bringing blind sheep, blind cattle with no legs, dragging them up to the temple, trying to donate them, and so forth, trying to pass the crippled animals off for the donations and stuff, and how we was doing all kind of wicked stuff. Well, 98 years later, because this is in 430 BC, 98 years later, the Greeks roll up and put their lights out, and then that's how you get that blank history. The exiles had to be destroyed. The exiles had to be destroyed. There wasn't no way possible for the exiles to be destroyed. And then if you read the book of Zephaniah, it is going to be before, just a little bit before the Babylonian captivity, and then how he said that it was over. And sometimes when we Hebrews told that it's over, we don't want to believe it. We don't want to believe that the show is over with and that the party is over with. That's how we Hebrews is. We don't want to believe that the party is over with. You see, if you read the book of Zephaniah, this is in 638 BC. This is gonna be a few years, men before the Babylonians roll up, and the problem started. The word of the Elohim which come unto Zephaniah, the son of Cushi, the son of Gedaliah, the son of Amari, the son of Hezekiah, in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, I will utterly consume all things from off the land, said the Elohim. I will consume man and beast. I will consume the fowls of the heaven, the fishes of the sea, and the stumbling block with the wicked. I will cut off man from off the land, said the Elohim. I will also stretch out my hand upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and I will cut off the remainder of Baal. You know what I'm saying? Man, they got cut off. You know what I'm saying? That's like the book of Haggai. This is in 625 BC. See, the book of Zephaniah was before Haggai, Habakkuk. It is the few years before Habakkuk, and then when you read the book of Habakkuk, he telling Ashkenazi to come get us, the Scythians, the people who controlled the Chaldeans. He would tell them to come get us. So it was over with, man. It couldn't be no two covenants. Couldn't be no two covenants. Once the covenant was broken by all of us, the exiles was just hanging on. And then let me show you what the prophet Isaiah said about the exiles. This will let you know they will be destroyed. All right. This is Isaiah 6. You know what I'm saying? I don't read all of it. You know what I'm saying? He was asking, the Creator, how long? And the Creator told him, man, he was asking how long till the everything come to pass and be destroyed. And also, this is Isaiah 6. Also, I heard the voice of the Elohim saying, whom shall I send, and whom will go for us? Then said I, here am I, send me. And he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not. See ye indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. Play like, we'll play like, oh, We're going to do what the Creator say. We're going to do what he say. And then we'll act straight for about a month or two. And then we'll turn back to our wickedness. So, you know what I'm saying? He was saying he ain't going to let that happen. All right. Then said I, Elohim, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without it inhabited, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. That's going to be in the book of Jeremiah, where I read chapter 44, where he said the whole land to be desolate, without it inhabiting in it, that it was that way. All right, that's going to be right here. Chapter 44, man, so that came to pass. The whole land desolate without it inhabited. All right. Then said I, Elohim, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabited, and the houses be without man, and the land be utterly desolate, and the Elohim have removed man far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. That great forsaking in the midst of the land gonna be us saying that we gonna go into Africa to do the Egyptian worship, and I'm gonna show that. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return and shall be eaten as a teal tree and as a oak whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. That's what happened to the exiles. And the Elohim have removed man far away. That's be the exiles gone into Babylon. And there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. That's going to be us right here telling the prophet Jeremiah, man, we through with the covenant and how we going into Africa to do their religion. You know, that's going to be Jeremiah chapter 44. This is before the people was, come back from Babylon. And then this is what we see. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. Man, we was crazy. And then, that drove us into Africa. And then that'd be this right here. That'd be the Second Kings 25. 2 Kings 25:26. This right here. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies, arose and came into Egypt, for they was afraid of the Chaldees. Now we know that it's a known fact that all the Hebrews that ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars never came back out of Africa when the exiles come back from Babylon. That's how we prove we the Hebrews. Our enemies can't do nothing with this history. When we went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars to say that we was going to stay to worship the Egyptian religion, we never returned. We never returned out of Africa to be reunited with these peoples. The exiles, Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah, Esther, Nehemiah, Malachi, and how that they never recorded the people that ran into Africa coming back out to be reunited with them. Good thing we didn't, because they got destroyed. We still here, and we have a chance to be the nation that the Creator say we gonna be, because we fulfilled the curses. The Creator said that, we would get the curses once the covenant was broke, and then that's what you see in the transatlantic slave trade. We the only Hebrews left, and then how if you didn't come from Africa on them slave ships, that you can't be no Hebrew, and that you can't be no Israelite. It's impossible for you to be an Israelite if you didn't get transported and do the transatlantic slave trade. And how that we the only people that fulfill the curses, and how other people who didn't go through that don't fit the curses, and how the Creator didn't make no exemptions for no Israelites, and how he said that the covenant would be broken from the beginning. So at some time the covenant had to be broken. At some time the covenant had to be broken. If the Creator said that the covenant was going to be broken, and Prophet Moses said the same thing, so how could the people in the New Testament stay on the land once the covenant was broken, and then the Creator said he would kick all the bones out? But let me show you this, and then I'm going to show you that the Creator said all the bones will be kicked out. Look, this is Deuteronomy 31, verse 16. Deuteronomy 31, verse 16. And the Elohim said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy father, and this people will rise up and go a whoring after the gods of the strangers of the land, whether they go to be among them, and will forsake me, and break my covenant which I have made with them. Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they shall say in that day, Are not all these evils come upon us because our Yah is not among us? Sure enough, we're saying that in captivity right now. All right. This is 31:29. This is what Prophet Moses said. For I know that after my death you will utterly corrupt yourselves and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because ye did evil in the sight of the Elohim, to provoke him to anger through the wraths of the works of your hands. Moses spoke all this, and it came to pass during the Babylonian Wars. And it's like our enemies claiming the Israelite heritage. I got plenty of videos showing how to undermine them with that mess, and how that the Sephardies, the Sephardims are the people that we abandon our heritage to, and how that they are the Semitic people. In Semitic means mix, half and half, and how that they had mixed up with all our enemies, and all our enemies could find a representation in the Amorite tribes, and how that all them would get our heritage, and how the Amorites will become king and top over all those mixed tribes, is where the term Semitic come from. And then they got placed in our land during during the Assyrian troubles, and how we never did drive them folks out. And these some more people that was set up in our land, besides them nations that I had set up, that had set up during the Babylonian times that I had previously read. All right, this is 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuddle, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. When we ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, we would lead them with our heritage. And it was Ashkenazi that chased us into Africa under the name Scythian. And they were settled in the whole in the whole Decapolis and Galilee area. They were settled, in how that we couldn't settle in them parts, because these are the people that made the Assyrian Empire go extinct, killed all the Assyrians, every last one of them, and how we couldn't live in them parts. And that's just like the prophet Nehemiah. Like I say, this is towards the last of our history. It's like maybe 100 years left, man, before the Greeks show up, and how Nehemiah said that we all lived in one spot. We lived in Jerusalem. And I'm going to show you this. Alright. When the exiles come back from Babylon, they was only forced to stay in one area. And the rulers of the people dwelled in Jerusalem. The rest of the people also cast lots to bring one of 10 to dwell. This is Nehemiah chapter 11. To dwell in Jerusalem, the holy city, and 9 parts to dwell in the other cities. And the people blessed all the men that willingly offered themselves to Jerusalem. Now these are the chief of the province that dwell in Jerusalem, but in the cities of Judah dwelled everyone in his possessions, in the cities too, with Israel, the priests and the Levites and the Nethinims. So that the Israelites from the other tribes was living in Judah cities, and then them Nethinims and the children of Solomon's servants, them gonna be the people that will get our heritage and so forth, because they are mixed with them. They are Amorite Canaanite tribes, and the chief of them will be the Amorites, and that'll be the Sephardims today, the Sephardists, who are the founders of Babylon in Canaan, because they are Amorites. Let me see. So, as you read, them folks only could live in Judah. And the residue of Israel, that this is Nehemiah chapter 11, verse 20. And the residue of Israel, of the priests and the Levites, were all in the cities of Judah, everyone in his inheritance. So that's where everybody looked. But this is where the Nethinims, the mixed people, stayed at. The mixed people who Solomon let survive, and that will come off his mixed kids. But the Nethinims dwelt in Opal, and Zar and Gaspar were over the Nethinims. They dwelt in Ophel, and them Zar and Gaspar was over the Nethinims. Them gonna be the mixed people. Them gonna be the people who are not Israelites, but were practicing our heritage that go all the way back to Joshua, not destroying them folks and turning them into servants. And then how Solomon, King Saul would try to get rid of them. King Saul would try to get rid of them, and King David, he wasn't fooling with them, but how Solomon opened the door. Right now, our enemy try to say that Solomon was a wise man. Solomon was the most wickedest man around, and it was because Solomon that we lost our heritage and so forth. And because it was from Solomon mixing and then letting all the mixed people live on our land that we never destroyed or never got rid of, to where when we ran into Africa in the book of Jeremiah, and when the exiles come home from Babylon, that they couldn't get rid of them folks, and how them folks would eventually get rid of them. And when the Greeks come in, man, it covered it all up. It changed everything around. And how you Hebrews think, you green rookie Hebrews think that the exiles history went all over to the New Testament, and how everybody was having fun and drinking lemonade. You Hebrews are green. You Hebrews are green, and you some rookies in this Israelite history when you try to say that the exiles went over to New Testament time or past the Greeks and the Romans. Impossible. Impossible. Shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. We're going to get it together, but I want to show you Hebrews that, we couldn't have two covenants. Couldn't be two covenants, one broken and one not. It don't make no sense. And how the exiles from Babylon broke the covenant, and how it was they vanished so fast. I'm going to bring some more of this history out. Shalom, Hebrew.